Okay, hello and welcome to my wrapped tutorial on how to use my spaghetti. This will include the setup to use wrapped as well as kind of tips and tricks that I have. One thing that you are going to need, however, is an add-on to transfer vertex border. There are free versions, but the one I use is this one. It's about $6. So if you're able to pay that, it's gonna look about the same thing as I do in the video. If you need to use the free version, which there are free versions, it's just gonna look a little different on how to use that add-on. That's basically the only difference. I just used the paid one because I paid for it, so I'm gonna use it. Okay, so to start with, I've done a little setup. This is just a vanilla head imported. I have not changed a thing. I've not touched a hair on her head. Well, she doesn't have hair. I have not touched her head at all. The only thing I have done is I've added materials to each of these visible items. And the rest of the items you don't really need to worry about. The only things you need to worry about that are hidden right now is the head and the ears, because we're going to join them into this mesh. One thing that is extremely important that you remember to do is to name your UV maps the same, otherwise you're going to lose one of them. Like if this is named head and this is named ears, when you join them together, either your ears or your head will be lost depending on which one was selected first, which is a big pain to fix, and you don't want to do that. So yeah, so basically you're going to export each of these as an OBJ for their each own little thing. So you're going to export the eyelashes as eyelashes, the eyes as eyes, eyeshadow as eyeshadow, tear line as tear line, except for the head you are going to select everything and then export that as head. Of course we need a target for this mesh to wrap over. I have picked a gnome head that I did a little edit to. It's not great looking, don't judge me, I did in like 3 minutes. Yeah, but this is our target for the deformation. Now, normally if you're editing a gnome head and you're wanting to do this process to refit eyelashes and such, that's what I normally do it for. I would recommend using a gnome head. But if you're doing something like how Padme is doing NPC heads to, different races, this would be a perfect way to do it. I'm also doing a gnome head to really show how powerful this tool is, and how much deformation can happen, how it can be fixed, that sort of thing. Because if I do a quick little edit to elf head D, there's not going to be that much deformation going on as there would if I do it with this gnome head. But basically I've just attached the ears and such, and I'm just going to export that as target. And we're going to open up wrapped. Now this is the wrapped blend file. It's not a blend file, it's a wrapped file, but you get what I mean. This area, all these nodes, is for refitting heads, eyelashes, tear lines, etc. And then this is what I use for bodies. You can notice that these two are essentially the same. The head stuff just has this extra stuff going on down here, but I'll explain it as we go through. Okay, so this is our base, and this will be our gnome head. This is what our target is. This is what we want it to look like, right? And then our float is our elf head, elf D head, that is going to wrap around the gnome head. You want to go in and select polygons, because even though everything looks selected, sometimes everything won't be selected, and you'll have like one in there that you've missed, and it will throw everything off because it's missing. So just make sure to loop. It's not as important on the base one, but on the face or head one, if you're missing these three selected, when you export it, it's going to have a giant hole right there. So you really need to make sure that everything is selected, which is why we have done materials, because as you can see, the eyelashes and everything are in there, but we don't actually want to use those right now. We just want the head. So that's why we did materials, because it makes it really easy to select everything and to make sure that everything is selected without selecting the eyes and all that sort of stuff. Because it really doesn't like if you have the eyes selected while you do this. Next is selecting point pairs. This is basically just points where you tell the program like, hey, I need you to snap this spot to this spot on the mesh. So it's just kind of like a map, and then in between the spots it can kind of just do whatever. I recommend using as little points as possible, because the more you snap, the less freedom the program has to do what it needs to do. Generally I do the eyes and then the nose. I don't generally do these points on the ears, but because it is such a big transformation from elf to gnome, I am going to put those points on the ears to try and help it. And with the ears it can be a little bit tricky and it won't work all the time in Wrapped, but that's okay because it's something we can fix in Blender, so it's not the end of the world if it happens. And you don't really need to worry about the neck so much, because that's again something we can fix in Blender. Yep, and then after that you just go to this wrap node and you can see blue is the float where pink is our base, and then we'll get to see it snap around in a second. Okay, and as you can see, of course, it didn't fully snap the shape. If you have an ear shape and you're really super duper in love with it, you would need to put more points here, but like I said, it's something we can usually fix in Blender with ear shape. Like here you can see it's all messed up, but basically in Blender what we can do is take the base, we can take this head, separate the ears, and then since the general shape will be applied from the float head, you can just detach the ears and attach the old ears on it. Yeah, basically that's the only time that it should matter if your edit head has the correct UVs or not. So just being aware when you do that. But yeah, okay, so it's been deformed, so now it comes out of all these nodes and goes into this lattice node, and this lattice node is basically what deforms all the eyelashes and stuff with it. So its target is the deformation that came out of this. So its target is this gnome head. The source is the selection here, which is just the head, and then I'm telling it that, hey, you need to deform all the geometry that came in with this load geometry node, which includes the eyes, eyelashes, etc. So when we come in here, we're still just going to select the head, and then again select the head, because this is the deformed and then this is the original. And in this brush is where we can make our edits. You need to always remember to hit the reset button, because if I make something like this happen and then I hit accept, it's going to apply that change to any mesh that comes through this brush node. So you always want to hit reset to make sure that it's reset. Generally in here I do a little cleanup, like if things are looking a little wobbly, or if you want to change the ear shape back to the original, you can do so like that. Looks a little strange though, I know. But yeah, I would really just play around with, you know, the size of the brush, the strength. One thing is you need to be careful of selecting is affect borders, because if you select affect borders, it's going to snap back up to the original position. So if I select it, it's going to try and go back to the very original form, where it's going to snap up to the original position. Not like the physical original position, but it's going to change the borders of the mesh. As you can see, like the ears are tilting in, where before they didn't do that. Like if I do that same edit, it's not really going affect as much. It's a little hard to explain. This is not really the best mesh to explain that with. But yeah, it's a little bit, I really don't know how to explain that one quite as well as I do the rest, but basically just be careful with effect borders, because you can accidentally mess things up. It's a lot easier to see on a outfit refit than it is with a head, because with an outfit refit, sorry, I'm just playing around with this while I'm talking. With an outfit refit, let's say you're refitting something from female to male, if you have effect borders on, it's going to allow a more breast-like shape to come out of the chest area than it would if you didn't have that selected, because it's affecting the border of the mesh. But yes, some quick little cleanup while keeping it. That's why you need to play around with everything, all the settings, with the strength and fall off. Fall off is how wide of an area it affects, because as you can see, it's affecting places where my cursor is not. Okay, enough playing around. Usually I do like to just do a quick little wiggle back into place to make sure those are centered. I don't know if that affects anything. That's just like a superstitious thing on my part. Okay. Yeah, so now you need to hit accept and then export that. You need to type a name, and you can hit these three dots, select a place, and say, okay, I want this to be head out. That's wheat, not out. Head out. Now, because it said save, you might think that you just saved it. You did not save it. To save it, you must hit compute current frame, or it will not save. Very annoying. Also, do not check this box, include transform. Wrap3D needs its meshes in a much larger form, so I have to increase them to scale about 100 times for them to show up properly. And if you hit include transform, when you import it into Blender, it's going to import that huge size. Now you can just import as 0.01 size, but it's really annoying, and it's easier if you just don't click include transform, because that's all it does, is it includes the transformations that are done here, and you shouldn't really mess around with that. Well, I take that back, because there's some instances you would, but it's confusing and I don't want to go too much into it because that's kind of more advanced stuff. Okay, anyways, so now we hit compute current frame and it's saved for real. Now we have the second lattice where it's taking input from the brush that we just did. So all the little edits and changes that we could have made here are now going into the target information, same as the wrap node, and it's just saying, hey, you know, this is your source, and you also need to deform everything from this float node again. So what you're going to see now is the gnome head, instead of how in here it was the elf head. So now it's the gnome head, but you need to select the eyelashes. Basically just follow the naming, and then come on, buddy. Eyes, eyeshadow, and tear line. And then also here, this is another load geometry node, and you need to load each of the eyelashes and stuff that you had exported before, because otherwise it gets very upset if it's not the exact same mesh, and it will give you an error which looks like a little triangle. And usually you can hover over that and it will say the geometry is not matching, which means it's not the same mesh, so you need to go fix it. Which basically means like, hey, you loaded the wrong one, like go fix it. Yeah, so tier line. Like for example, if I loaded the eyeshadow instead of tier line, you can see it doesn't match. It's saying like, hey, that's not the same, you need to fix it. So if I just go and load the tier line, and then it's happy and it goes away. Alright, so now we select this brush node, and as you can see, there's some strangeness going on with the eyelashes. Sometimes it will be due to previous transformations being applied, so you can hit reset and double check, but other times, no, it just really needs a little help. So you're going to just continue on using the brush and kind of push it back into place, and there you go, now it's fixed. You can see that there are different brushes here, but they kind of do the same thing that you can do in Blender Sculpt, so it's kind of easier to just not. The only one that's, well, I guess there's two. One is the one that I only use, is called the clone brush, where it says, hey, revert to the original form of this geometry. So I'm telling it, hey, revert to the original form of the elf D eyelashes. The other one that is kind of helpful sometimes is project, but it's kind of just more like a stricter snap of clone, where clone is like kind of gentle. Project will literally just completely snap the mesh to the original boundaries of the original mesh, and it can come out really spiky and not great looking. Okay, so as you can see, this is all freaked up. That's where the clone brush comes in handy, and this is why I do not know how to refit anything by hand, is because I'm spoiled and I do it this way. So basically just go over it until you see it stop shrinking and stop moving, and then your eyes are fixed, they're done. Like so. And always remember to hit accept. You'll get a little error, but because these are so close together, sometimes it won't let you save. It'll save like invalid geometry. That means you haven't saved or accepted the change. And we're just gonna go and do a quick little clean up here, and then same for here. Usually the tier line is fine, but I like to just give it a quick little run over just in case. And like I was saying, it will say invalid if it's not saved, so it goes away when you hit save. Now you can just save. I have this pre-typed, but you know, just type whatever you want, where you want it, hit compute current frame. Aha, invalid, because I did not save or accept it. See, there we go. Because it's so squished together that I didn't see the error message. But yeah, just hitting compute current frame, otherwise it doesn't save. Yeah, saving, everything seems saved. So then we'll come back to Blender and hide this and import all of our things that say out. Okay, control and shade smooth, and we can see we have very lovely refitted eyelashes and eyelashes, oh my god, eyelashes, and everything is looking great. Yeah, so now these things are unweighted, they have no vertex paint, no nothing. They are a mesh, but they're not game ready, and the way to fix that is to snap everything with the vertex order. So this is how you use this add-on. I don't know if it's different, but for different add-ons, but you select two faces, Alt-C, copy ID order, and then you do the same thing. It has to be the same exact two ones, and then I can do like this. Oh my god, I forgot. You need mesh data transfer as well. I'm just so used to it that my mind is like, oh, it's a part of Blender, but it's not. It's a free add-on, don't worry. Completely free, amazing. It's my favorite add-on, like I cannot live without it. Oh yeah, okay, so you'll select the original head, and then your head out, vertex ID, shape, and then world. If you do local, sometimes it'll just shrink and stay in its spot, but if you do world, it's gonna snap to this. And there you can see now it is the exact same, but this one is weighted with all of its vertex paint and everything. All of the data is intact. Yeah, and generally at this point I delete the head, and you just go through the same process for the eyelashes, and that way everything is weighted. Okay. Alright, now everything is refitted to the gnome head. There's a couple more steps that you can do. Like if you have the body ready, just to fix the neck is best, because generally it does come out a little bit strange like that. Because it's still trying to use the neck from the elf. Because I didn't specify which neck it should use. So normally what I do is I don't think I changed the neck. Okay. Yeah, so normally what I will do, well, I guess I can't really do it with the way I've done it this time. Normally what I'll do is, for the original head, is I'll select around and then only transfer shape of these selected vertices in edit mode, which you can do by selecting, well, if you hit this and then hit only select edit mode selection. Yeah, I guess I can still kind of do it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm being confusing. Alright, so let me just go into UV editing. 1 second. Okay, sorry, my phone started to buzz at me. Alright, so let's go in here and just kind of select everything except the neck, which you can do by hovering over UV island and then pressing L, which is a nice trick to know. And then you also want to select this row because it's this part right here, so I don't know why it's like that, but it is, but just make sure you do that. Alright. And then we're going to hit invert, so we want to grab the next shape from O1, hit the edit only mode. Oops. Well, that's what happens when you don't have the vertex order add-on. It'll do that. It'll spike. I made things a little complicated for myself, didn't I? Trying to show off. I'm so sorry. Well, I mean, as you can see, everything's refitted, but just trying to figure out why it's not working with me. Oh wait, that's right. This is a gnome head. I'm so silly. Okay. So let's just duplicate this. I don't generally recommend doing this because it can cut holes. I've recently figured out the reason why it cuts holes is because it banishes a vertex to this like shadow realm. Like, let's see if it'll do it when I do this. Okay, it didn't. It'll usually happen in this eye with this vertex right here, but it gets banished to the shadow realm and it'll say like negative undefined and like all of the coordinates, which is very strange. But sometimes you can get away with active UV, which then, you know, makes things easier because then it's a clean neck seam and everything looks lovely and great. And there's a normal seam, but I'm not going to fix that because I'm going to assume you know how to fix a normal seam at this point. right. I totally got off track. I'm so sorry. That was probably really confusing. But generally, since I don't do such drastic edits as an elf to a gnome head without trying to like use an elf head as the base, generally it's a little more clear cut and concise, where your let's say my edit head has that weird seam gap, right, where the neck is gapping from the body. Normally what you can do is, since you're using your base head and it's supposed to fit whatever body the base is, you can just do that trick that I mentioned where you only select basically from the neck seam up, and then the neck vertices will stay snapped to where they are and connected to the body, and the rest of your head is going to look like your head edit. But in this case it was a little bit special, and we got lucky with UV working. Otherwise it is a little bit of manual work and it's a little bit annoying, but normally you can get away with it. I've done it in the past where like it has done that undefined thing, but I'll select only the vertices around the neck so that I can keep the neck vertices where they need to be, or snap them to where they need to be, and then ignore the undetermined or indefined or whatever the fuck it is. Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to swear. Whatever the hell it is. So I can just not have to manually do the neck, because whatever I can get away with, I will do. But anyways, that's how you refit a head and the eyelashes and the eyes and everything. This is almost game ready. The only thing you would need to do is to separate the ears, properly name everything, give it a skeleton, and then use a template and set that up, and then everything is ready to go. It's pre-weighted, pre-painted, like the eyes have the correct paint for heterochromia. Like it's just completely ready to go, which is awesome. Now though, we shall do an outfit refit. Just give me one moment. Okay, so I have decided we're going to refit this outfit from my outfit mod to the gnome female body, just to kind of match with that gnome head that we made. So I have appended that from my main outfit file into this file, and just exported it all together, just all the parts together, and then I'm going to go into Wrapped. Now, I do have all of the bodies already set up and exported as OBJs, so that means that might be something that you have to do unless I decide to share that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to share it. It's just not fully complete because some of them don't have heads, and the head is kind of an important part, especially going from a tall raise to a small raise, or a small raise to a tall raise. If you don't have the head and you don't have that map point of the nose, then it can kind of get messed up. But this is the node tree for refitting outfits. As you can see, it looks a tiny bit different from the other one. There's this new node in here that's called Merge Geometry, and what it does is it takes two OBJs and it fuses them together and basically says treat this like it's one to the program, and the program does. So it's quite handy. So what we'll do is we'll have human F body as the base geometry, and then we'll have the outfit as one of the extra ones that gets added onto it. So we'll just come in here, load outfit 2, which I had exported beforehand, and then just make sure everything's selected. And then we can come in here and just select the body. Now I've already gone through and set this up just to make things a tiny bit quicker, but this is the gnome F body. You can see it's got its head and everything, all its ears. And these are the points that you have to do. You can save these as a Johnson, J-O-S-N, however you pronounce that, I don't know. But you can save the points as that so you can just reload them later. I don't have the points set up for everything, but what I would like to do is set up all the points for all the bodies, have all the bodies correctly exported with their heads as an OBJ, and then share that. That's the only delay that I can see in sharing that file with all the bodies. Because if I'm going to share all the bodies as OBJ, I might as well set that up for whoever wants to use it in the future. But yeah, I generally recommend these as like must-have points for going from tall to small or small to tall. Generally, if it's from, you know, like a tiefling female to female, then you'll need the fingers, nose, and toes. But for the smaller races, the knees and these points on the feet are very important because the feet are different sizes, so it needs to know where to go. Another thing, if your outfit has defined breast features, I would recommend putting points onto the nipples so it knows where that breast feature should be. But yeah, now that these points are done, we shall wrap this. Okay, so it's been wrapped. You can see that the body took to it quite nicely because of our points. The only giveaway that it's not actually the gnome is that the ears are incorrect. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So now we'll just come in here and select everything and subtract the body. And then we can come into the brush and see that, hey, yeah, that actually refit really nicely all by itself. I am going to go through and just make some small adjustments because you can see, like on the ankle, that it's got some spiking going on. So I'm just going to use the clone brush, fix that up really quick. Okay, and now that it is done, I am going to just save it as outfit to out. And always remember, compute current frame. Now we'll go back into Blender and then import that. And you can see it's fitting quite lovely. We do need to average faces though, and get rid of all these sharps. And you can see it's perfectly fitted. It is clipping with the body, but it fits that way on the human F body, so that is to be expected because I do snatch the waist. That's my thing. That's what I do. But yeah, so now another trick is to separate all of these back into their individual parts. And also with the merge geometry node, you can basically add as many as you like. So if you do want to export each of these as their own mesh, you can. It just takes a little bit longer, and I have materials assigned to them, so I don't do it, but you can if you like. It's completely fine. But another one of our tricks to get things to be weighted is using that same trick from earlier, the transfer the vertex order. So I'll just be doing that real quick. Okay, and there we have it. That is an outfit refit. Another added benefit of doing that transfer vertex border and then transferring shape is all of our sharps and like seam marks are preserved, so you don't need to redo everything. You will sometimes get, you know, some dark spots, and it's quite easy to fix, just average face area, and you know, normally things like this is fine in game, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, that's a quick refit, and that's how you can use that node tree to refit your own outfits. I hope this helped, and just ping me if you have any more questions.